make more good in the all-new Sportage X-Pro. Kia, movement that inspires.
Quaker Steak and Lube is throwing open the garage doors and setting up the umbrellas. It's patio season. Come enjoy great food, drinks, and fun in the sun. There's always something happening at Quaker Steak and Lube, but we're really amping up our event calendars for our favorite time of year. Visit thelube.com to find out what's happening at your local Lube this season. Lunch, happy hour, dinner, or late night, indoors or outside, at Quaker Steak and Lube, you'll always find big flavors, friendly faces, and lots of fun.
New Trail Brewing Company proudly crafts their beers right here in central Pennsylvania. Brewed with only the best possible ingredients, New Trail produces a variety of year-round brands as well as weekly experimental recipes. New Trail Broken Heels is Pennsylvania's favorite local hazy IPA. This beer is smooth and full-bodied. Hand-selected Citra hops lead to notes of bright clementine and juicy ruby red grapefruit. Broken Heels is perfect for a pregame tailgate all the way through the victory celebration.
What's the best mid-size pickup? Tacoma. What's the #1 mid-size truck in resale value? Tacoma. Want to get great gas mileage, 4 doors, and 4-wheel drive? Tacoma. Sioka Toyota of Williamsport has over 25 available right now. You can lease a brand new, never-driven Toyota Tacoma for just $379 a month. That's 30 months, 3,000 cash or trade, 10,000 miles a year. This is while supplies last. Buy yours or reserve yours today and see the Sioka difference. And remember, tell them Johnny sent you.
And we welcome you into another edition of the Line Country Kia Goon and Ironhead Show, a celebratory welcoming of 2023 as we celebrate Penn State's victory in the Rose Bowl over Utah. And in a lot of ways, Goon, I thought it was kind of everything that you were hoping for as a Penn State fan. It was an entertaining game, certainly up until the Rising injury. And you just hate to. I do feel for that kid. Second year in a row that he gets injured in the Rose Bowl. And nobody knows how that game plays out if he remains in. And there's no question he was a difference maker on that Utah offensive side of the football. But from Penn State's perspective, I just thought, it was a fantastic way for Sean Clifford to go out. He played arguably his best game. I was listening to the Penn State Sports Network in the pregame, and Jack Ham said that he thought Clifford had more zip on the ball going in the practices leading up to the game. He thought Clifford was looking better than he ever had in practices leading up to the game, and I had mentioned that to a couple of friends. I'm curious to see if that does translate now, and it did. He had a fantastic game, and. The big plays, I always love, I think we've talked about this a couple of times over the years. I always love we held them except for the 2 big plays. Well, right. But that's the point of that's why you have a Nicholas Singleton is he makes those 2 big plays that, or one of them, and Keandre Lambert-Smith makes it. The other, that is part of football. That is a big part of football. And it's like saying that, our pitcher had a great day except for the grand slam and the 3-run homer that he gave up. Well, right, but you lost 7-2 because of those 2 home runs. Yeah, I thought Utah did. It played a good game. I think it's a really good team. I think Utah is a legit top 10 team. Yep. I think Penn State probably is somewhere between 6th and 8th. I think you can flip a coin between them and Tennessee, LSU. I think Alabama, to me, clearly looks like the number 5, and then you have the 4 teams in the playoffs. I think Penn State's right there with anybody else after that. And not saying that on a given day, Penn State couldn't beat any of those other teams. But I think, again, for where this team started the season and expectations and where we're sitting right now, pretty hard to not feel good about the situation if you're a Penn State fan.
Well, first off, thoughts and prayers go out to the
Utah
punter. The punter. That was a horrible, horrible hit he took there.
It was. Game. Yeah.
He's probably in traction right now.
Barely survived.
Unbelievable. What a great game. What a fun game to watch. What a fun game I'm sure it was to be part of. Everything about it, the build-up and this and that. I'm reading stories about how they definitely had the crowd advantage, almost 2/3 to a third, almost, definitely more than half. My old teammates were out there, and they said it was actually pretty funny that someone was starting to Sean Clifford, one more year, but they were both wearing Drew Aller jerseys, so it was like a sort of the tongue-in-cheek fun stuff.
Well, it would be fitting if Tom Brady retires this year, because they both came in together. Clifford started his Penn State career when Brady began his NFL career. Absolutely. It would be fitting if they both close out their football careers at the same time.
But again, just an exciting game to be part of. I mean, you could see the relief on James's face. I mean, he was as happy as one of the kids out there. I mean, it was great for him, and he took a shot, getting his glasses knocked off there pretty good.
Yeah.
But good for the team, great for the team. Like we've been talking about for a long time, this bowl game is definitely the kickoff towards next season, and I really, to use our word that we use way too much, is bullish. Very, very bullish on this team next season going to the playoff. I really, really am. I think this is the team. This is exactly. It's trekking towards that. With this big win in the Rose Bowl. Again, not many people can say they're Rose Bowl champions, and it's a pretty cool thing to be saying. I'm happy that they joined the club with us as the second Penn State team to win a Rose Bowl. So,
yep.
Hell of a game, hell of a job coaching, a hell of a season. It looks like Manny might still be here another season at least, which is fantastic. Everything was rolling. I mean, offensive play calling last night was outstanding.
It was.
They had a lot of different looks out there. They kept Utah on their heels a little bit, in my opinion, and just talent all over the field. And talent took over. Sean deserves a lot of credit. He deserves the MVP of that game, and he went out and earned it and played his best game of his career, and that'll be what he's to remember the rest of his life.
Real quickly, where I thought you were going, the Damar Hamlin situation last night was just unlike anything I at least remember seeing.
Can't compare it
in a game, and obviously thoughts and prayers continue to go out to Hamlin. Yep. It just, it's just the last thing you're expecting to see when you tune in for a game of that magnitude, and it just does make you pause.
It really was a big buzzkill from last night, from the being the high of highs, and then 40 minutes later you're watching the man who possibly died on the field, and I hope it comes out who made the 5-minute call. The NBA or the NFL, they read today that they did not make the 5-minute call. I mean, whoever, if it was Joe Buck saying we're going to have a 5-minute, but how can Joe Buck make that up? Somebody was telling him that. So the only thing I can compare it to, Jim, there's nothing in this world that's ever happened in my life that I've ever seen that can compare to what we saw last night. Nothing. I mean, I've seen significantly disgusting, horrible injuries on a football field, and it was, you got to move it up. Move it up 15 yards, and it was the worst thing as a football player. We hated that about Joe Paterno. But it's not Joe Paterno. It's every coach has to do it. You're there to get your job. You have a job to do. And one of your guys goes down, and you're sitting there, you're looking back. And I remember I think we were sophomores. Scott Stratton was a huge offensive lineman for us back in the day. He broke his leg in like 99 places. I swear to God, I never saw anything like it. I never heard anything like it either, Jeffrey. It was one of those you remember your friend Jeff Anderson. He broke his, I believe, his femur.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Big thigh one. And that's when you hear it. It sounds like a tree cracking. But Scott's leg, we heard it. All these bones just cracking and breaking and just shattering. And he ended his career. But we're sitting there. You're watching this guy. His legs, spun around 92 times, and bones are protruding, and Joe's like, move it up 15 yards, and we got to finish practice. And you're like, man, how thoughtless is this? But you have to do it. You can't have 150 other people waiting, for the ambulance to get there and take him away. And no, you got to move on with practice. But I don't know who made that. Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break here. You guys warm up, and we're going to continue this game. When they just saw their teammate, their friend, laying on a field, and they were giving him the electric paddles and then CPR. I mean, the man was dead on the field, and they resuscitated him. How can you ask a man to go out and play a game after that?
Yeah.
Just And I'm glad that that Sean and the Bengals coach, they got together and they made a decision like we can't do this. No way.
Yeah.
Now we are in a weird, unprecedented spot right now in the NFL. What do they do with that game? Because it had significant ramifications up and down the AFC playoff picture.
Yeah.
They've already announced they're not going to replay that game this week. So what are they going to do? I mean,
I think it just gets scrapped. I don't see. I mean, we'll see, but no, it just is it didn't get played.
So then, what does that do for your Steelers?
Well, it doesn't
have
impact
any ramifications on that.
No.
Okay. But I know it does on the Chiefs. I mean, who gets the first round bye?
But I just don't know what else you can do. And I think part of it is going to depend too what happens here, what news we learn over the next 24 to 48 hours. Because listen, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm really not. If this thing goes the way everybody is hoping it doesn't, I'm not sure the Bills don't just say, "Hey, thanks, it's been fun. We'll see you next season." I mean, I don't know, man. That is
it's unprecedented.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but I mean, I don't see how you can. How are you going to reschedule it?
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you can.
The only thing I can think of, Jeff, is because there is a week off before the Super Bowl. You cannot move the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is locked into their position, but I think that maybe they take that first bye week and everybody gets off, and then those two, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know if you can do that without all of the other scheduling issues that come into play there. Well, I think it just gets.
It changes every week because the playoff teams change. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's a possibility. But if they just say it's a no game, no play, does that hurt or help the Bills? Getting that first round bye. I mean, I'm sure that they would just say, "Okay, we don't need to play this game.
Yeah.
We don't want the bye." Chiefs.
I mean, we'll see. I don't, but I
would not want to be in this situation.
My expectation is that it just
goes
those
away.
Two, those two just play 16, and you go from there.
It's weird. Yeah,
but it was it was a horrific scene last night.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm watching it, and then what gets you is not. It wasn't. They never showed the paddles. They never showed the CPR. They showed the players' reactions.
Yeah,
and that's what's absolutely just crushed me watching those guys, because you looked at Josh Allen, and he looked over his teammate, and he goes, you can look at his face, and he's just sitting there going, "Is this really happening?" That was the thought he had. Oh my God, he's dead. Oh God. I mean, kudos to the medical staffs of both teams. The fact that he is actually still alive right now after what he had gone through in critical condition still.
Yeah.
But I never saw anything like it. I mean, was it an actual hit that led to it? Was it an actual
we'll learn that in the coming days.
I guess, but so weird, because it wasn't a neck, because the way he stood up, if it was a spinal injury, he's not standing up and taking that one step. I mean, I know he went down, but there's no way if it was a spinal cord injury, he was going to get up from that. So that's when you're like, oh God, it's a brain or a heart thing. And, the doctors come out today and say, everybody's heart, it's like a 1 in a billion shot if you hit at that exact millisecond of when the heart start and stop, and it's bad. I mean, yeah, there's no real what way to think here. It's horrible. And I don't want to be the NFL, because I think that the society is going to jump on them no matter what. And it's like they're in a no-win situation. It's like they have to move on. It's like Joe Paterno, move it up 15 yards. That they have to play the games this week. They have to play, I saw somebody calling for the NFL to shut down for the rest of the year. Like, okay. Again, this is a 1 in a billion. We don't know what happened, but it's probably if that was the case.
I think part of it, you got to see how this what happens here over the next couple of days.
Just horrible and gut wrenching to see the players and the team. And did you see his charity has already gotten almost close to $4 million in donations already from the we are a good society. We are very good when it comes to this, but you wish it didn't this have to happen for that to happen. But
going back to the bowl game, and obviously it was a good win for the Big Ten, which had been on quite a down streak. But I will say, and there's a lot of chatter. I did get on a couple of the message boards, which I very rarely do, but I was just intrigued to see fan reaction from the college football semifinals from the Penn State side, and there are. Listen, there is no question that those that are arguing that you should be rooting for Ohio State and Michigan for the conference's strength, you're absolutely right. But I'm not going to fault a fan for no, I can't do it. I'm one of them. I was rooting for TCU, and I'm still happy that TCU won. I get it. I understand, and you're absolutely right. It impacts Penn State negatively. Because Penn State is part of the Big Ten, but the Big Ten has never welcomed Penn State, and so the same courtesy is not going to be returned. It's my perspective, and again, those of you that are in the other camp, you're right. I mean, I'm not going to argue with you, but I'm just telling you, fans can root against whoever they want. You can't dictate. Well, if you're a Penn State fan, you have, and I saw a lot of that. You have to root for. No, you don't. You get to root for whoever you want. You can change your mind. Yep. That's part of the wonderful thing about being a fan. You can jump a bandwagon. You can get off, stop being a Penn State fan if you want. You're not going to be a diehard if you do that. But yeah, you get to root week by week for whoever you want. That's your prerogative. And listen, the dislike of Michigan and Ohio State runs deep in the Nittany Lion roots. So, and truthfully, I don't think that. My main point, though, is I don't think anybody watching those two games comes away saying, "Oh man, Big Ten clearly inferior conference." Right? I mean, Michigan and Ohio State were right there. Questionable non-call on the targeting. I'm not sure. I really don't. And
Ohio
listen,
State
if you're Michigan and you're counting on a targeting call to be made, that tells you where you're at in the game, right? That being said, it is the rule, and the replay. I know. Again, I've lost the battle, but I continue to maintain that the replay is a disaster, and it affects games as negatively as it does positively overall. But you tell me why was that not targeting?
Were you talking about the Michigan one late in the game? At the end of the game? Yeah, I got you. I completely agree. I mean, I was at my in-laws' house all week, so I literally watched every bowl game last week. I watched every one of them. So that Kansas game, did you watch the end of that? Yeah. When they had that miraculous comeback, and then they go for a 2-point play in double overtime, and then they got stopped, but then they called targeting, and then Kansas ended up scoring. Now, they ended up losing the game anyway, but it's besides the point.
Which, if you're going to have that kind of a comeback, finish the doggone thing off. That's even more heartbreaking than just losing close in regulation to come all the way back and then lose it. Ugh.
So the Michigan one, that referee didn't have the cojones to call it, and that's what I don't appreciate, because the one on Harrison in the Ohio State game was clearly targeting, not with leading with the head, not with the crown of the helmet. And everybody's saying he hit him with his head, but if you look at it, he launched himself at Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah,
launched him, and you cannot tell me that him being out of that game did not change that game. That changed the game as much as Utah's quarterback get knocked out of that game yesterday. I mean, everything changed right after that play. Everything.
Well, and this is the other thing that I still despise against about replay is, and for a long time it looked like that was going to be the difference in the Steelers-Ravens game, is the Cam Hayward personal foul.
Oh, how about that?
When Hayward literally has his arms up and gets pulled into the pile, and that's when the flag comes out. I get that there was some pushing beforehand both ways, but the flag came out, and what the call was when Hayward came back onto the pile because he was pulled.
Unnecessary roughness.
Why can you not look at that on replay. That's an idiotic. Well, no, you just can't. Well, replay's supposed to get it right. That's what everybody tells. Well, Ironhead, we got to get it right. We got to have replay, Ironhead. You got to get it right. Don't you want to get it right? Well, yeah, I want to get it right. They didn't get it right in the TCU-Michigan game, and they didn't get it right because they couldn't review it. Well, you can't review everything. Well, everything can impact a game. That's my point. If you're not going to review a play that can change the game, then get rid of it. It's human error. Quarterbacks, coaches, offensive linemen, and officials all make mistakes. They make mistakes even with the video replay. So get rid of it. Let the flow of the game continue. But then you're going to see, you're going to have everybody saying that there should. You have it right now. You have people saying it right now with replay. That's my point. Well, yeah, but you're going to have more. So what? So what?
I'm with you, man.
It just drives me crazy.
They review all this and that, but they don't want to review something like that. I get it. I mean, but it was not a unnecessary roughness. It was a bad call all the way around. I mean, I guess that the game was chipping. They wanted to try and nip it in the butt. That's the only thing I can think of right there. Why they called that, because that was a damn fierce game. I mean, that was a freaking brawl.
Well, and
man.
the replay, and going back, that Michigan TCU game with the touchdown overturned, and it was right. But again, that changed obviously everything for a good period of time there with the fumble in the next play, and I get, again, you got to finish it off and all of that, but I don't know. I am steadfast in my opposition, futile though it may be.
How was that not a touchdown? He was bobbling the ball when he fell into the end zone and then made the catch there. I don't understand. And then I don't understand why Harbaugh tried to reinvent the wheel when it came to his run game with putting a tight end in the backfield and then a tailback at fullback. And you talked about how some people were like, well, if we only did this, and some Michigan fans were telling, well, if we didn't throw those 2 pick sixes and then get stopped on 4th and goal in the first drive, or they called that first one a touchdown and didn't fumble, I was like, that's 24 points. And I'm like, yeah, but it happened. It happened like that. But
no, that one is agonizing for Michigan.
Bowl season.
Well, I mean, it was this weekend in particular was fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, it was great games. For the first time I think ever, both semifinal games were compelling, right down to the very end. And again, I don't think anybody. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about this, but I don't think anybody who watched those games doesn't come away saying, "Oh man, Big Ten sucks. Big Ten's inferior." Right? Like, I mean, both those teams were right there. And, again, there were a bunch of things, no question, that went against Michigan. And again, I'm with you. It happens. That's the game. But I mean, I can understand the frustration of a Michigan fan today because that game was there in so many different ways for the taking. But how many teams have said that against TCU this year? And I know they're a heavy underdog, and I think rightfully so. I mean, I think, again, you look at the, matchups, I think Georgia is rightfully a heavy favorite. I'm just telling you, TCU has had poor matchups in a bunch of games this year, and it's just a team that finds a way to win remarkably consistently. So we'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to that.
The non-quitting
championship
kids, they don't
game.
quit. Like I told you last week, my predictions for the game, and that was I thought Michigan would swallow
which
them.
I knew was trouble for you.
Yeah, but. And we had Georgia pegged, man. We really did. They matched up very, very well with Ohio State. Excuse me. I had Ohio State winning it in my pool.
Yeah.
And I just thought that they matched up well against Georgia, and they did. And then
well, and they were dialed in. I mean, that is by far the best game Ohio State played this season.
I got to call into question some Ryan Day stuff, and then even some Harbaugh stuff. Just. Again, Harbaugh making a lot of those calls early and late in the game. It was like, what's going on here? What are you thinking? But Ryan Day, the one that got me, it was when they were trying to milk the 4-minute offense a little bit. Not the field goal drive. The drive before that, they were trying to milk some clock down, and they got it down to 1 second, and then, the ball got snapped, but they had already run on the field to call a timeout because he didn't think that Stroud was under control.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, you got to trust your guy, man. You really got to trust your guy. And then I would love to see the time matchup of that timeout call and that fake punt versus, was the ball snapped? Because that ball sure as hell looked snapped, and he was already moving when they called that timeout.
Yeah.
Just crazy. How just something that simple. And then, he's out there, Stroud's running around out there. He gets the ball down and well in the field goal range. And then for some reason, they just puckered.
Yeah.
And took like a 7 or 8 yard loss. And it was like, a 50-yarder is not easy for a college kid.
No.
In NFL, it's ho-hum. You're expected to do that. I mean, I give maybe a 60% chance of a 50-yard field goal being kicked late in that game, all that pressure, and geez, I don't know what happened on that kick. I mean, that wasn't even close.
No.
Oh, man, that was gut-wrenching if you're an Ohio State fan.
Yeah.
I mean, up 13 late in the game like that, and then to lose, my Lord, man, my Lord.
But early look at next season with what Penn State has coming back and with the momentum, right? I think that the preseason hype, Alabama's always going to get it, and there's going to be extra motivation with that Alabama program and with their performance against Kansas State, right? I mean, and regardless of what happens with Georgia in the championship game, Georgia and Bama are going to be two teams that will receive top 5 votes and could very well be 1 and 2 in whatever order preseason next year. But I think USC and Penn State are probably the two teams that are going to get the most attention outside of the normal. I mean, again, Ohio State and Michigan will be expected to be there.
I'm interested to see where Harbaugh does, to be honest with you. You see any of those reports?
Yeah.
Going to Denver, maybe?
Yeah, it is going to be interesting after the last 2 seasons. And, we're gonna see how much his allegiance really is with Michigan. And listen, hats off to what he's done because he got that program in amazing shape after a lot of struggles to get there to the last 2 seasons.
Only thing that drives me nuts is he's 1-6 in bowl games.
That's driving Michigan fans nuts too.
But that's Michigan in general. Bo Schembechler, I've always said it's ridiculous. And I picked him in my block pool, in my pool, and against my better judgment, Jeffrey, knowing that that's the MO, it's not really the bowl game and this and that, and then I blame myself, but I fell for it. No, but I mean, there is definitely, John Bacon's the one out in Michigan saying that if Harbaugh's going to go, it's going to go quick. And the article that I saw was, I think Fleming wrote it, that he said that he's going to go if Denver comes. I mean, okay, he has created an old school Big Ten program. He has created a Woody Hayes, Bo Schembechler, Joe Paterno type bludgeoning team. But he's old school, right? We've all known that. He's also weird, but eccentric, I guess you could say. I don't think he can. He cannot like where college football is right now, with these bidding wars, with these just flat out just paying players. He can't be enjoying that. He really can't. He wants to be a football coach. You're no longer a football coach. You're a banker out there. You're creating all this money, and you're the rainmaker for a lot of these kids. And God bless them. Again, God bless these kids are finally getting paid. But I go back to the NIL, which is our 412th straight show that we said the NIL word, is what it was, get a couple dollars for an autograph or an appearance show. Remember that? And now it's just like flat out just giving kids millions of dollars. I mean, you knew it was going to turn into that overnight, but my God, there's just no control. It's the wild freaking West out there. And I can't imagine that Harbaugh likes it. I can't. It's not his. It's not his DNA to like that. I just, my feeling about him. And I could be completely wrong. I mean, it's completely changed the landscape of the game. It really has. I mean, but I think that this Wild Wild West, it can only last 2 or 3 years before it has to get shut down and put back under control a little bit. Your feeling on him? Do you think that do you think he likes where football is right now? Where you have to re-recruit your same kids every year.
But here's the thing: I don't think any of these guys like it. I mean, some of them are probably able to adjust to it better or easier. But I mean, I don't think there's any coach out there who's like, oh man, this is awesome. This is what I've signed up for. I was really hoping that we'd have kids that could leave anytime they want for any reason they want with no consequences. And I was really hoping that we'd have just a free for all when it comes to NIL. I mean, I don't think there's any coach. All of the best coaches, there's all kinds of different personalities, the Mike Leaches to the Bo Schembechlers and the Nick Sabans to the, Ed Orgerons. You can be successful in a wide variety of ways. But one thing that all of these successful college coaches have in common is that they are control freaks. And you have to be. I mean, that's not a criticism. Like, you have to be somebody who is detail-oriented and wants to know what is happening with every part of the program. You don't necessarily need to be the one running every part of it, but you want and need to know. And so all of this stuff is opening up more things that they don't have control over, right? And it's not just college football coaches. I mean, any successful person, right? You want as much control over whatever it is that you're in charge of in your field as you can. And when you have less and less control over that, it is a more uncomfortable position to be in, and makes your job more difficult. So, I don't disagree with you, and it may impact him because I hear what you're saying. I do think he's more old school. But I think for all of these coaches, right, that there's probably more appeal than there's ever been with the NFL, because all of this stuff is already structured and in place. And all your job is, the other part of it is, and I think I know a lot of fans probably poo-poo it, but I do think most of these college coaches take seriously their job as leaders of these men and trying to develop them not just as football players, but as men and as people that can go on and contribute to society, so that they're trying to foster these guys through the academic program, trying to get them to be involved in the community, trying to get them to understand the value of religion, or having some sort of a grounding anyway in your life, so that there's all of that. And I think, and there are a lot of these guys that I think that's why they're in college football, is they believe that their calling is greater than just football. But as an NFL coach, I mean, it is now the other side of it is truly all just about winning in the NFL. But it is just football. You're not responsible for these guys, what their decisions off the field. I mean, obviously, some of their decisions can have consequences to your job. So I'm not saying that you're not, trying to help out with that. But your job is just getting guys prepared to play football week in and week out. And you're not, you're right. You don't have to worry about any of this, the other stuff the college football coaches have always had on their plate, and now all of the additional things that they have on their plate. And again, I know they're paid very well for it, but there are not a lot of guys that can juggle all of the elements very well. No. And it's why you don't see guys stay at one school for more than 10 years very often.
Yeah, it's a grind, man. It really, really is.
I mean, it's always been a grind, but it is becoming a tougher and tougher grind.
But
I think each season.
But is it easier? Just put it out there. Is it easier for James Franklin to go in and recruit somebody from South Carolina, a speed kid from South Carolina? He's not recruiting him to Penn State. He's saying, hey, I'm going to give you $3 million. You know what I mean? You've taken that aspect of you really have to sell yourself to this kid. We really got to sell the school. It's a tough environment. That's a tough drive to get up here. It's a tough flight. This and that. Your parents won't be here that much.
Well,
but if it's about money, it makes the recruiting a little bit easier. I don't know. It's just it's the Wild West right now. Even as a fan, we don't know what the hell's to expect. Yeah. It's just crazy to freaking think about. But, so I think it was Chris, we and him were talking a couple weeks ago, or maybe with you. I mean, I was on Matt McGloin's show last week, and we were talking okay, if you're not building, what don't we have? Most schools don't have a good backup quarterback. We were lucky to have Drew Alara this year. Okay, but most schools, these kids are leaving if they're not the starter, they're gone. So you're down to a third or fourth string kid as your backup quarterback. So what's going to stop? I mean, honest to God, go out and hurt a kid. I mean, think about it. I mean, you're talking about wins and losses and people's professions, and you knock their quarterback out of the game. Guess what? You're going to go. I mean, we saw it yesterday in Utah.
Yeah,
that was a whole different. It was a quarter of what Utah could bring to the table. With their backup quarterback out there. I mean, what's to stop that? I mean, you don't want to say that. You don't want to come out and say that. But, I mean, hell, if it's a distinct advantage to knock the quarterback out of the game, you're going to go after that quarterback. And it's just crazy to even think about that, to fathom that. And the other thing, I was talking to Chris and then Matt on the McGloin show, was why go out and recruit? It's the hardest position to recruit is offensive line. Why don't let these kids go to a smaller school, and then you can recruit them if they're playing well. You know what I mean? Do we have the time right now? It just seems that we're not really grooming our offensive line from freshman, sophomore, and then starting as juniors. It seems like we're starting freshmen and sophomores pretty quick. And these guys that are returning and coming back next year, they've been through the grinder a long time. So when they're gone, who's replacing them? Do we have backups right now that are getting time, or do you have to go out and recruit? A MAC level type of kid who's played 2 years in the MAC, started twice, 2 years, and hey, there's your new guard, there's your new center, there's your new left. It's crazy to really think about this whole NIL thing, but just the recruiting of it. And Booch made that point 2 years ago. How much? Okay, if you have a $10 million recruiting budget, how much is going towards high school recruiting, and how much is going out after college kids that are already proven they're in the transfer portal? And there are people who say that there's not tampering. Are you crazy?
There's the same people that said there was, everybody was on the up and up with the high school recruiting.
No one pays these kids. No one, there's no McDonald's bags full of cash. It's again the wild west and where it's at right now, and it's interesting and scary to see where it's going to go. Really, really is.
Yeah, I do think. For whatever it's worth, I do think Penn State is positioned well. I think James Franklin, whether you like him or don't like him, I'm telling you, I know there's a lot of people that point to the salary, but I think I just saw a report. I think he's either the 8th or the 9th highest paid coach. Well, guess where Penn State is? I mean, right? So. I get that you want to. I get that you want to win national titles, but if you are going to equate the salary is the reason why he needs to be more successful. The salary tells you that this program ought to be consistently in the lower part of the top 10. Well, guess where they've been
the last 4 years,
very consistently under James Franklin.
Yep,
and the overall success. And it's never fair. It's never fair to the student athletes. It's never fair to coaches to compare them to student athletes of the past or coaches of the past. But it's also equally inevitable as much as it is unfair. But for those that like to compare Franklin and Paterno, the success rate that Franklin is having consistently, folks, you got to go way back to when Paterno was having that type of success this consistently.
Yeah, man.
And I think it's building toward Yeah, and again, obviously the proof will be in the pudding. We'll see what the results are the next 2 seasons. But I think, Penn State's best days under Franklin are still ahead of it. And that's saying something, kids.
Yeah, did you see the article on ESPN.com today about going back and tracking the ones and twos and so the 94 team, but they went back to all the way back into like the 20s and 30s and teams that finished 1 and 1A pretty much.
Okay.
So there's about 30. It's a pretty cool article.
Yeah.
It's like, the Washington and Miami split, and then Colorado and Georgia Tech split that one in 90 and 91, and Miami. And it was just really cool. And they were talking about the different articles. But, you're going back to 68 and 69. And we can complain as much as we want about how it's set up right now, but Richard Nixon giving the national title trophy away before a bowl game?
Yep.
Think about that. In what world was that like, oh, okay, so we got to, they're definitely the national champions. We're not going to worry about any kind of bowl game. You thought we got screwed. Holy crap.
Yep.
But, that was Joe's second or third year, So, you're right. James is tracking very well. He's building a good program, a good base here. You can't really complain. He's won 3 of the major six bowl games.
Yep.
He's won 3 of them. And I guess I'm not going to say I'm disappointed that the Rose Bowl, like the Big Ten, Pac-12 affiliation is over, but it was pretty cool to win the last one of them, right?
For sure. No, that's, I think that is a nice little added bonus to take away from the game is that is the last time with that arrangement, which has been very special and a big part of the tradition of the Rose Bowl. So, so I think that is pretty neat. And so, listen, at the end of the day, I think Penn State is well positioned in this current climate, as chaotic and as unhappy as we may be about it. I think Penn State, because of the fan base and the money that the alumni are willing to pony up, and the facilities, and I do think, I'm sure fans of all teams think that their team and program is special, but it is hard to argue against Penn State being a special place when you look at what Penn State has been able to accomplish since the scandal in 2011.
Yeah.
You're just not going to convince me that there are a lot of places that would have been able to withstand that to the degree that Penn State was able to. And again, I don't think it's just the name. Bill O'Brien had a whole lot to do with it. Some special players on that team. Yep. So there's a whole host of things, but I think part of it is that, this just is a special place. And I think, through all of the changes, and, I know that there are some, I have some friends that they're like, I'm done with college football. I'll follow it, but I'm not investing in it anymore. And I don't mean investing monetarily, just that they're not going to follow it the way they have.
That we know. No doubt.
I get it, but I do think Penn State, with everything it has going for it, is well positioned to be competitive. Again, I don't know whether or not they're going to win national titles. There's one team each year, one program that gets to win the national title, and to say that you're not successful if you're not winning national titles, I think is a little foolish. But I think Penn State, under Franklin, Penn State has been pretty consistently among the contenders, and regardless of schedules, I'm telling you, getting 10 or 11 wins in college football is not an easy task. And this program has been doing that more often than not under James Franklin. And again, I think they're very well positioned to at least make a run in these next couple of years.
I think next year's the year. Title. I think that if it's not a playoff run next year, then it'll be
it'll be a disappointment for sure.
As good as nice as this year was.
Yep.
Everybody was projected 8-9 wins, and they go and win. 11-2, right?
Yeah.
No one had that. Nobody had that. Not even me. Not even the biggest homer out there. Mike the Mailman didn't have 11-2. Did he have 11-2? 15-0. Yeah, he had 15-0. The Mailman. Come on, man. The Mailman. Yeah, we're right where we want to be, but then it's now the fans are going to want more, and that is the next step, and that is to make it in the playoff. And that's where James has got to be right now, and I think that's where I think that's what he's setting himself up to do this year, coming up. Enjoy it now, but it's ready to go back to work because it's year round, man. Absolutely year round. Yeah, it's so much better. I remember talking to Bill when they beat Wisconsin and the end of the season. Was that 2 years ago that they had done that? I remember just going to him and saying it just makes the winter so much easier and bearable that you're coming off of a win. You really are. Rather than coming off, Michigan, it's going to suck for them. Ohio State's going to have that in the back of their head. The coaches are going to be pissed off because they didn't win the game. They're not playing for a national title. It's going to be a miserable, miserable experience to be in Columbus and in Ann Arbor as a player because it's like, okay, well, we got there, but we didn't do anything. We got to work harder now, and they're going to get pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think that we know that the next step is the playoff, and that is what our aiming point and our goal should be this year. Yeah,
and I think, listen, I think everybody in that program knows that is what it should
was this year too. Don't get me wrong.
Right, but I think now they feel like that is something that should be accomplished, not that can be, or and let's not shy away from the fact that one of the reasons they feel that way is they're looking around at the other guys on the roster and they're like, holy cow. Yep. We have a lot of talent. A lot of these guys are going to be playing on Sundays in the future. And I think, the other part of it is with the momentum and going back to the transfer portal, and I forget the kid's name, but the NC State wide receiver that's coming, Penn State now is one of those places that kids are wanting to go to. If you're a wide receiver, why would you not want to be playing with Drew Haller and with that running game, right? So that, and Penn State is even after a couple of down seasons, has been pretty consistently, completely consistently on the up in the transfer portal. There hasn't been a year where it's even been close where you're like, oh man, Penn State transfer portal hurt them. Overall, it has been a win every season, and I would suspect that this year will probably be the biggest win yet because, again, if you're playing for another school and you're looking around at options and you're wanting to leave whatever school you're at, why would you not want to be part of a program where, again, you can play in front of 105,000 plus consistently? You have a coach who's consistently getting guys to the NFL. You have a program that's consistently winning 10 or 11 games. And if you are a marquee player, right, you have to be believing, you know what? The difference in that program winning the national title, that's me. I go there and I can get that school with that alumni base and everything. That's a pretty attractive setup. Again, Penn State may lose some good kids here and there too. But it's hard to imagine that Penn State isn't going to come out of the transfer portal not in better shape than it starts it in each of the next couple of off seasons.
God, look, I have a friend from Purdue, and he was telling me today they had 19 kids opt out of that game or in the transfer portal.
Is that what I knew there was? Jesus. I didn't realize it was that
coach
number.
Left.
I knew there was. I didn't realize it was 19.
It's not for everybody, but it's like my wife was like, "Why would they not just play in the bowl game?" And I was like, "Well, honest to God, you got to get into that transfer portal, get your place quick before somebody else takes that spot." It really is like that. Like I made a mention, like it's really unfair to the players that a coach can leave right after the season and not coach your bowl game. That sucks. You your team is going to a bowl game and, your head coach is gone.
Well, what was even worse for years is if your coach was gone because of
locked.
NCAA infractions. And so you, as the kid who did nothing wrong, you're like, you can't go to a bowl game. Meanwhile, that coach is taking another multi-million dollar job at another school. It's like, what in the world? How is that justice? So that part has, I do think that is a change for the better.
Yeah, it is.
For college football.
Yeah, but it was like, the new coach coming in is maybe he's not a drop back quarterback guy. So Aiden Connell would say, you know what, I got to get the hell out of here. So I got two questions I have. One of them I have to ask you is I'll end that with this. That's the second question. The first one is, were you okay with Joey Porter being on the sideline?
Yes, me personally, yes. I know you thought you. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I want to know how he got out there. Was it on Penn State's dime? Was he part of the team out there all week, or was he? I don't know. So I don't know the whole situation. If he was on his own dime getting out there, I'm okay with that. But if he was out there in the hotel room, flying in the team plane, this and that, you're not playing in the game. Why are you there? You're not part of the team. That's just my opinion. Second one, the medical stuff at the Southern Scuffles. Guys wrestling 2 matches and then taking medicals. I was told to ask your opinion of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of it. I don't know what you do to address it because there's no question that there are some of these kids that are ducking. Do I know which ones? No. I mean, and the issue is, I mean, there are all kinds of factors that come into play, right? If you have a tweaked ankle and you're going against a kid that is great with ankle picks, well, I get it. You don't want to. Well, yeah, you could compete, right? But March is the ultimate goal for all of these guys, and they all know that. And why are you going to put yourself in a higher risk? And again, I don't know. Fans are always speculating. Well, this guy's. Well, maybe he is, and maybe he isn't. I mean, I've seen situations where I know the kid in different circumstances is hurt, and everybody out there on social media, oh my gosh, I can't believe he's perfectly fine. And it's like, well, no, he's not. Like I can tell you, and there's illness. There's all some of it. Yes, if you see a kid with a broken leg and he has a cast on, all right, it. But sometimes you see kids walking around, and if the school doesn't and the kid doesn't want to release, it could be a concussion protocol. I mean, there's a wide variety of factors that can come into play. Yeah, I don't think it's good for the sport. You have a marquee event with marquee wrestlers, and you're trying to draw fans into the sport, and then those marquee matchups don't occur.
Marquee matchups, and they're not happening.
Right, and it's and it's not good for the sport. So nice. I do think this year's Nationals is going to be off the charts good in terms of the caliber of wrestling, and we're seeing again just more and more big names getting upset early in the season, and still you're going to see more upsets. I have no doubt as we get into conference play here throughout the country, and I just think it's going to lead to a lot of fun speculation about what can and will happen at the NCAA tournament this year.
It's going to be freaking awesome. It's going to be really, really, really cool.
And real quick, just hats off both to Penn State hockey and the Penn State men's basketball. I know I know the end was a little more dicey than any of us would have cared for, but they won the game, man. Yep. And that is a good win. Any win in the conference is going to be a good win. And at this stage, getting W's, no matter how you get them, is just a huge part of the equation.
Big week for hoops. And Michigan Wednesday, huge and week. Purdue Sunday down to Palestra.
Purdue coming off the loss to Rutgers, so I think probably an even tougher assignment than if Purdue was number one, because they're going to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that on Thursday, whether or not I have some friends that are not happy that game isn't at the Jordan Center because of the you're giving up a home game opportunity against the number one team. We'll maybe kick that around a little bit and the impacts of
I've
that.
been to both Palestra games, and it's my favorite place to watch a basketball game. I just don't understand why it's a Sunday night at 6 o'clock.
That is part of the equation as well.
It's like you want your students to go down there, but they start school the next morning.
Yeah.
So we'll ask them to get done and drive up from Philadelphia at 9 o'clock at night on Sunday night. Come on now.
Yeah, we'll kick that around a little bit.
If it was Saturday, I think it would be an absolute home run like that has been the last couple times.
Yeah.
Because what a great trip at that
Well, we'll talk about that and much more on Thursday. Until then, congratulations